What's up? It's Malia, and I caught another flight. This time to Berlin, Germany. Now, the flight wasn't as long as it usually is from America because I was actually coming from Reykjavik, Iceland. If you haven't seen my video on 5 days in Iceland, go check it out. But I was with my mom. So, Mom, come on down. Let's chit-chat.
Hello.
Introduce yourself to the people.
Hi, I'm Anne, and I got to go to Berlin, Germany for 2.5 days with my lovely daughter.
Highlight, you can only choose one thing. What was your favorite part?
Learning all about the Berlin Wall and just what an impact that really was. The whole city is really like a memorial museum to the Berlin Wall.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. But it's still also really like modern too.
Oh, very.
And we'll get more into it, but like that is one thing I noticed is like I thought it was a perfect combination of like old historic, but also like kind of young and modern artsy vibes as
Very
well.
much, yeah.
But anywho, 2.5 days in Berlin, Germany. Let's get into it. So we flew from Reykjavik to Berlin, which was a longer flight than I kind of anticipated. I think it was like 3.5 hours ish. And we got to Berlin about 1 in the afternoon. And then we took the train into the city, went directly to our hotel to drop our stuff down. We stayed at the Titanic Comfort Mitte Hotel in Berlin, downtown. I would recommend staying there. It was a
Absolutely.
good time.
Yes.
So we put our stuff down, kind of recuperated for a second. And then do you remember the first Berlin thing we did when we got there?
The Berlin Wall Memorial. Captivating. I found it captivating.
At the Berlin Wall Memorial, there were these posts that stood up with articles and information, and it was like kind of everything from photo, video, audio, like different accounts of stories. And it was like mostly all just like people talking about their experience of themselves or a friend trying to get over or cross the wall. Defect. Did you realize that the Berlin Wall was like multi-layered before we went there?
No, I did not.
So yeah, same. I thought it was just like one big tall wall. But what I learned was there was about 4 or 5 different layers, if you will, of the wall. Some parts of the wall was just the big wall, but then there was other parts with more or less layers as well. So that was something that really stood out to me. And the Berlin Wall Memorial is actually like almost a mile long. So you can go from like block to block to block. And when you type it into your maps, it'll take you to the main area that you see online with the big photo and the train station that you actually get off at to go to the Berlin Wall Memorial was shut down, I think, when the wall was up.
Yes.
So the train station itself is, I don't necessarily want to call it a touristy area, but it is a good photo opportunity because it is historic in that it was completely shut down, militarized. We were there for like over an hour, and I think we could have definitely spent more time there, but we had to leave to go get dinner, and we had reservations at Sophie Neck restaurant.
And I love the atmosphere in the restaurant because it was like a really old building, as so many things are in Europe.
A classic German food spot that when I was doing my research, everyone said you have to go to. So you got the sauerkraut.
Which I was looking forward to. I love German food. Love
I
it.
don't.
Not so much.
But you liked your sauerkraut thing.
Oh, it was delicious. Yes, it was wonderful.
I got something that was homemade jellied something, and it was served cold. I ate it. And then after dinner, we just called it a night. We had a good walk through the city.
It was pretty.
Yeah. Day 2. One of the first things you actually pointed it out to me, though, was as we were walking from our hotel to Checkpoint Charlie, we didn't have to take the train, you noticed the cobblestone on the ground.
It outlined the whole perimeter of the Berlin Wall throughout the city. So you'd be walking around and you would just see this down on the ground. So then you would know that that's where the wall had once stood.
I was glad you noticed that because then for the rest of our trip, we would see the Berlin Wall wherever we were, which we must have been hanging out on the perimeter or something.
A lot.
Because
We saw it a
I feel like we
lot.
saw it everywhere. When we got to Checkpoint Charlie, we saw, what you see in photos. It's cool. It's like literally an active street. So you have to like wait for the crosswalk, and the building itself
It's
wasn't.
just like a watchtower. It was just a small, probably 5 feet, 6 feet in diameter little watchtower.
But it was cool because the sign saying like you are leaving the American sector or you are entering the American sector was still up. But the cool thing that I didn't know about, like when I was doing research, I didn't see it online. The Black Box Cold War exhibit, which is essentially across the street from Checkpoint Charlie, kitty cornered to it. It is open for free, but there is a paid section where I think you could go see some type of movie explaining things deeper. But we did not go into the paid section because we had to go on to our way to the Topography of Terrors Museum exhibit. Now, that one was a lot. We were there for like almost 3 hours. There's an inside portion of the museum and an outside. So when you look it up online, the outside portion of the museum is usually what you see, but the inside portion is free to the public and very extensive.
It was about how the Nazis came to power.
You can get an audio guide that will take you through each of the different sections of the museum. So if you're into that, I would recommend bringing headphones. It's very in-depth.
Very.
After our extensive amount of time at the Topography of Terrors Museum, we went and grabbed lunch at some random like Italian place that we found on the street before we moved on to our kind of afternoon activities. And our first one was the Memorial to the Murdered Jews, otherwise known as the Holocaust Memorial. And that was an interesting one. I'd never been to a memorial or museum quite like it. Talk us through it.
Yeah, never. There were a lot of these like pillars just coming up.
2,711.
Are you sure? But you walked through it and the sunlight would peek through, and then in other places it'd be shaded.
It was an interesting place. It was cool to see from the top side and going down into it. And there is a area that you can go in and read more accounts and stories. But we didn't do it. And honestly, it wasn't very obvious to find.
It wasn't very well marked.
I didn't really see it. The Holocaust Memorial is right next to the Brandenburg Gate. So it's actually the Brandenburg Gate, and we say the name wrong throughout this entire video. I'm sorry. But just know, it's Brandenburg.
It was beautiful. It was gorgeous. And
it was gorgeous. I would say the main thing that I was like, oh, I should have thought of that, is when we were there, the sun was setting behind the gate. That's something to think about when you're, going to the gate, just thinking about where the sun is and where your photos are.
And the vibes around, there was a lot of, like street performers and that, kind of thing, which we didn't see. That was the only place we saw anything like that in Germany.
Yeah.
Or in Berlin. Yeah. That I remember.
Yeah. And then I like this area because everything's kind of close together, because then we walked over to the Reichstag building, which is the German parliament. It's free admission, but you do need to book your reservations or tickets in advance. So we didn't go in, but it was cool to see it from the outside. We walked across the street to the Tiergarten, which is essentially like the Central Park of Berlin. So there was a lot of just little memorials and statues here and there. There was little exhibits, if you will, and we stumbled across the Soviet War Memorial, which that was really cool. That was kind of almost reminded me of the World War II Memorial in DC. You agree?
Yeah, agree. Yep, exactly. That's what it reminded me of too.
Yeah.
And as we were walking along, I saw this plaque on the ground in the cement, and it was the place where Ronald Reagan was standing when he gave the speech, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. It was just so unceremonial, Is that a word?
It was kind of like a pothole in the ground.
Yes.
Or those sewer things that people open up and go down into.
The manhole. It was like a manhole, only it was rectangular in shape. And and I just thought, well, if I hadn't stopped and read that, it was wild. And then we went to the TV tower.
The TV tower is something that you do need to get tickets in advance for. They're about $30 before you go up there, and you select a certain time. And we bought our time, I think, like 2 hours before, if that.
Yeah. You go around and it's all, windows, so you can see the view of the city. And then they have little placard things for you to read, explaining to you what it is that you're looking at. We got some really fun drinks there. You got that espresso martini. And what did I get? I got something.
Oh, was it some type of margarita?
Possibly. I would say like try to go maybe earlier in the day, maybe even like right when they open, because then maybe it won't be, because we were there like right before the dinner hour, and I think that probably was pretty peak
Yeah, it was
time.
busy, and then the sun set and it was dark. So
Yes, yeah.
from there, we got dinner at a fun place called Cafe Spreeblick. That was another German place. So day 2 of me trying to find some German food that I like. I got meatballs, like German
Yeah,
meatballs.
they were German meatballs.
Oh, period. Yeah. So, and they were good, and I liked them.
I would think, especially if you're there in the summer, you'd want to get a reservation. I bet it's packed in the summertime.
And then we walked back across the river and called it a night.
Mm-hmm.
So that was our first full day in Berlin.
We woke up to some rain.
Yeah. The first thing we did on our final day in the morning was go to the East Side Gallery.
The East Side Gallery is just where a section of the Berlin Wall has been turned into artwork. On the one side, artists were commissioned to do different paintings. And then on the other side, random people, anybody that wanted to, could just put up their artwork and their painting. It was really spectacular.
And there were some posts talking more about specifically the East Side Gallery and the commission of the art and the artists.
Explain some of the artists, why they did what they did and what it meant.
From there, we walked, I believe, maybe we took the train, to a restaurant, a brunch spot called Annalise.
Mm-hmm.
This is a little fun fact if you do this. Apple Maps took us through this little park to get to the restaurant, whereas we could have just walked a little further down the street and then turned onto the street with the restaurant rather than cutting through this park. Do that. Stay on the streets.
Stay on the street.
Let's talk about these pancakes.
Oh my heavens. Just amazing syrup. Cream cheese, I think is what it was. Oh my gosh. Just melt in your mouth. So good.
After our killer brunch, amazing brunch, we went to Museum Island. And we first went to the Humboldt Forum, and we got into the free part of the museum, which was a worldwide natural history museum. We were there for a while, and we learned a lot about some stuff that we were not expecting to learn about. Do research before you go to plan what you want to see. But after the Humboldt Forum, it was right across the street from the Berlin Cathedral. And we were gonna go in, but we decided to take some photos outside beforehand, which were some really pretty photos.
Beautiful.
And after some photos, we went up the stairs to go into the museum, which is about $10 to get in. But it was closed.
We missed it by 2 minutes.
Literally 2 minutes. Yeah. So we started walking back towards the Brandenburg Gate, and we came across.
As we were going over the bridge, over the river, I looked to the right and I saw a flea market.
And I love a flea market. So the flea market was called Kunstmarkt on Zeughaus.
Very nicely done.
Thank you. We actually got something kind of unique. We came across a vendor artist that was selling coasters. Ampelman coasters. So let's talk about Ampelman.
When you first get to Berlin, you notice that at the stoplights, for the pedestrians, it's not your typical walk and don't walk symbols. They have what they call Ampelman, and it was developed in East Berlin. And so all through the whole city of Berlin, that's their pedestrian stop and go signs. And they're so fun.
And then we started walking back towards Brandenburg Gate because I was still looking for a deck of cards. Those of you that know me know that I collect decks of cards from all over the world whenever I travel. So we just popped our heads into some other stores and did some shopping. And then we went back to the hotel because we were leaving the next morning. We packed up. I randomly found this restaurant online, Ristorante Bocca Felice, and got reservations there. And it was 3 blocks from our hotel, super close. This was an Italian place, and we went, and I think it was the best food we had all weekend.
It was very,
for
very
me at
good.
least.
It was delicious. It was great Italian.
And it was just a lovely ending to our quick trip to Berlin. If you're talking to someone, oh, I want to go to Berlin, what are the top 3 things anyone visiting Berlin has to go see, in your opinion?
Checkpoint Charlie, Brandenburg Gate, and the Holocaust Memorial.
I think for me, I would echo Brandenburg Gate for sure, but I'll give 3 other ones. I would say East Side Gallery, Berlin Wall Memorial. That was really cool. And then, dare I say, Annalise for brunch. Well, that was 2.5 days in Berlin. Mom, appreciate you, well, coming with me to Germany. And then also for sitting here, chit-chat and recapping the trip. If you go to Berlin, I hope this video is a little bit helpful in giving you an idea of what to expect. We really enjoyed it. I hope you do too. But thanks for coming along with us, and we will catch you on our next trip.